We're joined by former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. I want to play this soundbite. This is Chris Wallace talking to the current National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, on Fox News yesterday. Take a listen, bite 6.
This fella, Haqqani, he authorized suicide bombings against U.S. forces in Afghanistan over the years. The State Department has a $5 billion bounty on this guy's head. Do you really believe that the kinds of soft power pressure you're talking about is enormous leverage over a zealot like Haqqani?
First of all, Chris, billions of dollars is not soft power. That's real cold, hard cash that matters.
Okay, now Mike, is that couple of $1 billion of soft power going to be real leverage on a guy that has made his career out of killing Americans?
Well, I can't imagine that the leverage situation hasn't already changed and won't deteriorate even further as we make our final departure in the next 36 hours or so from Afghanistan. The leverage that we were successful for 4 years in using had very little to do with money. We never paid the Taliban. Our leverage had to do with the fact that American power would rain down on their heads if they didn't do the things that we needed to do. It's how we managed from February 2020 on not to have a single American attacked or an American killed. When you lose that leverage, when you lose the power of America, it's hard leverage, the real leverage that you have over someone who is a butcher and a horrible person like Haqqani, you lose the real leverage that you have.
You know, Secretary Pompeo, you've got a new piece up at ACLJ.org, went up on Friday, but I want to draw people's attention to it because the piece, the headline of the piece is the Biden administration's created a humanitarian crisis and potential genocide in Afghanistan. I want people to read the piece at ACLJ.org and share it with their friends and family. But that aspect, I think people see the humanitarian side. They realize this is not going to be good for most people, most Afghans who don't have permits to even travel. So they don't have a place to kind of even look towards to in private companies and these evacuations that may still go on privately or through contractors. But the genocide statement there, the fact that in the last 20 years people have had more freedoms in Afghanistan to decide their faith, not perfect, but they've had these opportunities. And you're very concerned that this is that we are putting these people in a very dangerous situation.
Well, it's almost certainly the case that it's deteriorated materially in the last couple of weeks already. In those areas that had previously been under the control of the Afghan government, life was more normal than it had been in an awfully long time in Afghanistan. There were women going to school. There were kids being educated. It wasn't America, but it was better. The places that were governed by the Taliban was significantly worse, massive human rights violations. That now is the state of affairs for nearly all of Afghanistan. And so the lives of these people will be severely diminished and their freedoms almost vanish.
You know, one of the things, Mr. Secretary, that came out of all of this was the negotiations with the Taliban as it relates to the military side of this. And apparently, according to the Washington Post, there were negotiations going on between General McKenzie and the head of the Taliban political wing, Baradar. What's interesting about this is the Taliban apparently said that the U.S. could control Kabul. That would have been appropriate. They could have done that, or the Taliban has to do it. It's one or the other. And the United States decided to let the Taliban control it. And I think that probably is a pretty fatal mistake. Your sense?
Well, if that reporting is true, I've read the article as well. If that reporting is true, there had to be enormous political pressure coming from the most senior elements of the White House, directing the military to stand back, to saying that we're not going to devote the resources necessary to go protect Kabul. I can't imagine a military leader making a decision that says, nope, you can have the city. We'll just take this little old airport as our security outpost. I would have thought the military leader would have wanted the more expansive security perimeter that having control of Kabul would have provided. But my guess is, and I don't know this, my guess if the reporting's true, the White House had clearly made the message known to the military leaders. Shrink as fast as you can, get a tiny footprint. August 31st is a real hard stop no matter what these guys do. Even if we have Americans left behind, we're going to leave on the 31st. And the military leadership was trying to make decisions inside of that massively politically constrained environment.
Yeah. How dangerous, Secretary Pompeo? I mean, we saw what can happen to our troops if just one of these bombs is able to get through. I don't know if they're still as exposed right now because they have sent out these messages that they're basically only dealing with the people that are left. But it would seem to me that this 36 hours, taking out all the politics, whether we should go or not, but for our troops, very dangerous on the ground.
Yes, Jordan, this is a perilous time. These kinds of transitions, even perfectly executed, are always difficult to manage. I pray that our military has been provided the resources they need to execute this in a way that reduces risk. There's no doubt as you're trying to get that last piece of equipment, those last people that you have decided are going to be on the inside out. It is a very difficult problem set. And, contrary to what we've heard some of this administration's senior leaders say, these folks don't have an incentive to make this easy. In fact, they have an incentive to make us pay a price as we're exiting so that we'll never consider returning again.
Yeah. Mike, I wrote a book years ago when ISIS was barely known called Rise of ISIS, which was based on a research project I did at University of Oxford in 2015, and it was when barely anybody knew of ISIS. And then you've got this the ISIS-K because it's handling that province involving Pakistan and of course, Afghanistan. And then the administration keeps pitching this, well, the Taliban is the mortal enemy of ISIS. History has shown, however, that even mortal enemies within a religious group, say the Sunni and Shia, and the Iranians, who then will back both if there is a common enemy that they think is larger and more significant for their overall exporting of their terrorism. What do you think the risk is with the Taliban and ISIS, especially the Taliban giving a safe haven to ISIS? Are we going to be looking at ISIS 2015 again?
Boy, they definitely have varying approaches, but your core point is spot on. These folks are gladly work together against the great Satan. Right? There is more of a bond with the common enemy than there is an adversarial behavior as between them. That risk certainly continues. Look, you have the Sunni al-Qaeda leadership sitting inside of Shia Iran today in Tehran. The al-Qaeda senior leadership is sitting right in the capital of Iran. They will find accommodations entente way to work together against the United States and against the West. And so, yes, the risk of ISIS return and ISIS rise is very real. And I hope that there have been the resources appropriately placed in Afghanistan to prevent that. But I have not seen any evidence of that to date.
Can I ask one last, really quick? We got less than a minute left here. What is this doing for our image globally? I mean, they the Biden administration we're the global leaders again. It sure doesn't look that way.
No, it doesn't feel that way to me, and certainly doesn't appear that way to the folks who reached out to me and called me and are very concerned about American credibility and the fact that we've committed treachery from their perspective with our friends, and that's never a good place to find yourself. Certainly a horrible place for the United States to find itself.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Secretary Pompeo, of course, is our senior counsel for global affairs at the ACLJ. Great to have you as part of this team. So helpful, and your knowledge that you're imparting to our audience. We can't thank you enough. Thanks, Mike.
The piece is up at aclj.org from Secretary Pompeo. The Biden administration has created a humanitarian crisis and potential genocide in Afghanistan. So I want you to share that with your friends and family because that's looking post also the withdrawal, which, again, the attention is going to be on that.